Oh, that's rocking. Is that a new
Yeah.
intro?
No, it's been my intro for a while, like since season 2.
Oh, that's rocking. Is that a new intro? I'm hearing some
Yeah.
echo. Hold on. Is that me?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
you.
that's me. That's me.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, hello to Krabby Hermit, and of course anyone who's lurking in the chat and or watching in the future.
and this is we're late, and it's absolutely my fault. I
Yeah.
turned my alarm
Yeah.
clock off. I've just woken up. I've just literally. I mean, look at me. I just climbed
Yeah.
out of bed. I'm
Yeah.
feeling. I'm pretty rough. I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the whole stream, and I come in here just to check, and Ring was like ready to go. So we
Yeah.
are here. Thank you so much for hanging in there and sticking with me. I am
Yeah.
so sorry, and sorry to everybody in the chat, everybody who comes to see this live. Hopefully, this is not a new this is not a first impression I'm making.
Yeah.
So I'm usually pretty punctual.
To go with a B pun, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of cross pollination between our audiences.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure most of them probably know who I am.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
but I'm stoked
yeah.
to talk about this. I've been researching and I read the book. I know
Yeah.
you just finished the book. I read the book back in high school, so it's been
Yeah.
a bit. So I just did some refresher research on.
Well, I just reread the book because I read the book in like high school too.
Yeah. But just to be clear, I hope you aren't excited about a variety of weird bugs to come up in this review, because there's sadly not a lot of variety to the bugs in the novel.
Yeah. In the novel, like the like for for a book being famous about space marines fighting bugs, there's a whole lot of space marines, not that many bugs.
And the bugs could be anything, and they're what they are and who they are and what they I mean what they represent kind of matters a little bit, because they do represent some communism, but they it doesn't matter what they are. There's nothing that you could swap out any other alien species and put them in there and still tell the same story. He's his main message, the main thing that our author Heinlein is wanting to present here is philosophy. He's wanting to sell you some political philosophy, and he's packaging it as a space sci-fi adventure to rope in the audience, and it works. You do get roped into the world a little bit as you read about their structure and their history.
And see, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Heinlein, because like he writes some good pulp sci-fi, but then when you dig down under the surface, there's stuff that most people today would be kind of uncomfortable with.
Yeah, he's a little fashy, just a little bit. It's right under the surface, but he, in his philosophy, he kind of gives you, he tries to tell you explain why he's a little fashy, that he thinks that being a little fashy is necessary, but there's things very some, and there's a lot of oh man, the social commentary, I guess I would say, about the way things were in the 1950s that he was wanting to reflect in his writing. So we will get into that as we move through the book here. You want to just start at the beginning of the book where we are?
Well, so the book doesn't begin at the beginning of the story, because it drops us in media res.
Excuse
me. Where our gallant and noble space marines are basically conducting a terrorist attack.
Right. On the skinnies, right? It's on this. So there's another, and then there's another. Yeah, we probably need to talk about the skinnies, because they are just a secondary alien race that kind of who do they represent?
They're well, like they're just kind of there. Like they don't really have a purpose in the novel except to, well, okay, I guess you could say that they're basically all the third world countries that the USSR and America used for their proxy wars.
Yeah, where they're fighting.
Because they kind of start out supporting the bugs, and then they kind of flip flop and give intelligence to the humans.
Right. They're sort of
after being.
They almost remind me of like the origins of the Taliban in a way. The way that they that the humans were helping them stand off the bugs, and then they went and flipped, and it's at the end of where we start the novel at, actually towards the end, towards the end after the bug war and everything, is where we start out, where they're raiding the skinnies and trying to just outmuscle them and show them that humans are going to rule this galaxy. Which is a positive message, by the way, that we're going to conquer all the other races, because again, Heinlein's philosophy is that if you are not expanding and conquering, you are dying. That's his philosophy. He is based on basically Darwinian evolution, and that he thinks that is when it comes to empire, that it's either growing. There's he talks about, there's a whole chapter. It's like the 5 stages of an empire or whatever, where you're either battling to reach the top, expanding once you reach the top, or you're receding back and crumbling. And uses some of that Roman imagery there, as he's talking about the way that the humans have expanded. So at this point that we start the novel, the bug wars, this is kind of in the past.
And this discussion is strictly the book.
There will be a part 2.
Yeah, there will be a part 2 sometime in the future on Bre's channel.
Yeah,
where we will be talking about other forms of Starship Trooper media.
Yeah, we're gonna do not just the movie, but we're gonna talk about the video games and all that stuff. So, which will be fun because I get to rewatch the whole thing. So the movies, just to touch on this real quick, the movies are almost a satire of the book. So all the media that's based on the 90s franchise is a satire of what Heinlein really was presenting in his book, and that's this uber militant human society that's got these very corporal codes of conduct. Everything comes down to corporal interaction. You have a disagreement, you fight. You have you break a law, you get punished. It's always physical punishment. And that line from the movie, though, does kind of stand true about that. War is or violence is the only. That does tie into his philosophy. Now, when we watch it in the movie, it's making fun of that philosophy and saying, this is ridiculous how this future is supposed to be. But in the book, it's serious. They really
it is kind of funny that basically that they satirized all of Heinlein's political takes, but still made. Well, actually, I haven't seen it, but
one of the best sci-fi movies of the 90s for sure.
But from what I understand, still made a pretty accurate adaptation.
Yeah, you just gotta stick your tongue in your cheek while you watch the movie, as opposed to the book where you gotta take it seriously, and you gotta. And there are some. Heinlein was a good philosopher. He really was. I mean, he used the right terms, and he knew he made his case. He wasn't like modern day people pushing that more militant conservative message where they're just like, oh, we hate foreigners and stuff. No, he had philosophy behind what he was saying. So I'll give him that. But I don't agree with any of this.
Though I mean, there are some points where he just makes blanket assertions like morality is an exact science.
Well, we need to. I guess we broke into the first chapter. We need to lay down some history of how this world came to be, because this is supposed to be our world.
Yeah.
Before we even get started, there's a lot. We should. I guess what point in the book do they explain the history? That's like chapter 2 or 3, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of given in drips and drabs throughout the book, but basically, World War III essentially broke out between China and the European powers plus America. And then all the veterans came back to essentially anarchy because we mollycoddled our youth too much, and now there's a bunch of
delinquents.
A bunch of juvenile delinquent gangs terrorizing everyone. And so the veterans were like, the first group formed in Scotland, but veterans were like, okay, enough of this shit. And then they started forming vigilante gangs to take out the delinquents and seized power. And then the scientists and academics tried to hold a soft coup and got curb stomped. And so now we're in a world where you only get to vote if you've served in the military or if you've served in a government capacity. And but it seems like most of the preferential jobs are military related, and basically they're like, but if someone wants to be a citizen and can't hack it in the military, we're gonna have them be lab rats or clean up nuclear waste sites.
Yeah, to federal service, you're guaranteed to have a federal service position, no matter what your condition is in this world. So, whether if you're disabled, even if you're mentally deficient, they will find something for you to do. But the whole time that you're doing whatever federal service you're doing, they're trying to get you to quit. They're trying to push you into not doing it because they want it to be the elite that are making I guess you call it tactically elite individuals. They want people that are willing to push through whatever suffering for the greater good. That's who they want to have the right to vote. And federal service is how you prove that you have that. Now, our main character, Johnny Rico, or Juan Rico, as his name is in the book, and they do call him Johnny, but Juan is his real name. And he's, I believe he's supposed to be of Filipino descent. But
and the funny thing about that is, you go through Johnny's story, and then at the very end, it's revealed that Johnny's Filipino.
Yeah.
And it's handled like a look, it's like, it's written like it's a surprise twist, like it's meant to be like a bit, like meant to make some kind of a big point.
Right.
But
Filipinos can be heroes too. Who would have thought?
Yeah, but to a modern reader, it's like, okay, so what?
And all these people in almost everybody that any character with a name, almost all of them have a Latin American name. Or I don't want to say American but the government is very American. It's just they're not, they're the global federation now. They're not. It's not. There's no countries on the earth anymore. It's all the global federation. And our friend Johnny is from Argentina. So his name's Juan Rico. So you're expecting him to be very Latin, which still not Casper Van Dien white, but suave. And then you find out he's Filipino, which at the end, why not just tell you at the beginning?
Yeah.
But when we start off the story, he's a seasoned soldier.
He had just gotten promotion to sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And he was worried because that since he he's kind of worried because since he's kind of essentially skipped a guy over, that guy's probably going to be a problem that he'll have to handle when they get back to the ship. But yeah, basically the entire first chapter is, well, first leading up to the drop, and then just Space Marines committing government sanctioned terrorism to get the skinnies to decide to work with the humans instead of with the bugs.
Right. That's where we start our story with our with our main character committing acts of or committing war crimes.
Yeah, casually slinging around nukes to completely destroy important infrastructure.
Yeah, and this is considered diplomacy in this universe. That's all combat. Everything your combat is justified, and it's might makes right. So whoever wins the fight, no matter how awful their position is, they're the ones that were in the right. It's like the situation with him getting promoted. There's a part where he fights with another individual, and then he has him pop him in the face after the fight's over, so that they're all squared away and that they've settled it through their violence, and the guy's fallen into line underneath him.
Yeah. The squad leader that he got passed over, when they get back to the ship, they have a brawl in the washroom.
Right. And then that's how they settle it. And it's settled. And that's like, he falls underneath him. And that's how this world works. It really is a might makes right world. And that's the whole message throughout the story. Now, when we finish up this scene, we flash back to Johnny in high school. And kind of his origin story that we get into here. He comes from a rich family that did not, they're business people, so they're private sector, and they did not, his family line did not serve in federal service at any point.
And kind of made it a bit of a point of pride.
Right, yeah, that they did. Federal service is the kind of the idea about it is that it's for, because rich people don't need it, because what federal service is that guarantees you a position in the society, a job in the society, and it's really thought of as something that a way to get ahead for poor people.
Yeah, and also it's like, well, yeah, the only thing we'd get out of federal service is we'd get to vote, and we don't need to vote. We're rich enough to buy politicians.
Right. It's civic power is basically what you get from a civic voice is what you get from federal service. Whereas the rich people, they actually own the politicians, so they don't have to.
Yeah.
And Johnny's dad is a business owner. They live in Buenos Aires, in South America. They are kind of upper class, upper crust. He goes to a school though where he has a teacher that served in federal service, and kind of talks about it a bit. It's not the same as in the book or in the movie. I mean, it's not a Michael Ironsides kind of teacher. This teacher's more of a philosophy kind of guy.
He taught ethics and history and moral philosophy is the name of the course, which is mandatory. And it's basically government sanctioned indoctrination.
And it's where we learn a lot of the history stuff that we just talked about, and the way that their government's set up and the way their society works. There's no president or anything in this world. It's all the veterans are basically laid down the foundation that people who had federal services, they're all going to be equal powers. Now there is a hierarchy, and at the top of the hierarchy is the Sky Marshal, but he's not really a president because he only is in charge of the military forces.
Yeah.
But science and technology research, that's all, which is kind of ironic because that's all under federal control too, for someone who is so anti-communism that all our research and development has been pulled out of the hands of the private sector. Is kind of a strange flex, but okay.
Well, yeah, it's because the right people are making the decisions.
Yeah,
and as I was saying that, I realized that it could be both. It could work both, in both connotations of the word right.
Right. The right people. Yeah. So yeah, this is, make no mistake about it, a a masturbatory fantasy of the libertarian is what this world is.
Yeah.
This is how they think it should work, but it doesn't. That's how societies work. And I'm going to get into, I don't want to get into a political rant. Let's just have fun with the book. So instead of talking about politics, let's talk about power armor, because there's some power armor in this that we do not get in the movie, which was so disappointing. Would have been awesome to see them out there jumping around, because they have these and that was this a novel idea at the time, the power armor suits?
I'm pretty sure, like, for all of you like Warhammer 40K or insert or Halo or insert Space Marine and power armor fans here, you do have Heinlein to thank for that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure
it really is.
I'm pretty sure Heinlein, like, Starship Troopers was the example of the Space Marine in power armor.
Yeah. But you could even say it's probably the innovation of the Space Marine in general. From everything we get from aliens to play in Halo, or even Metroid and things like that, where you're running around in power armor with heavy with BFGs in each hand.
Yeah. And in fact, I will bring up some textual evidence to support my assertion that yes, this is the origin of the Space Marine, because in the book they're not Marines.
Yeah, it's just federal infantry.
Yeah, they're like, there's no Marines in their military. There's the Navy, which flies all the spaceships.
It's almost exclusively women too, which is not reflected in the movie either. But yeah, the women, their federal service in combat is generally in the Navy. Go on. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, because women aren't, of course, naturally more dexterous and able to think on their feet than men.
And there are women in the mobile infantry too, but not as many as there are men, which is like the movie Dizzy, the character that he ends up hooking up with, and then she dies in the movie. She was just a character that died just in a scene to die. Yeah. She wasn't really part of the story. Carmen Diaz was the main love interest he had through the beginning of the movie, and she was just the one that enticed him to join to sign up for federal service. She didn't have too much
and of course there's that bit of good old Heinlein pseudo misogyny, where because the captains are always women, because basically troop morale, the last thing they hear before they make a drop is a woman's voice wishing them luck.
Right. Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of
but my point is, like, while they are, mobile infantry, and while they are, army, like specifically mentioned as to be part of the army, basically they work a lot more like Marines, where their job is to just kind of sit on ships, and then when the ship gets them somewhere, they drop, they fuck shit up, and then they go home.
Right. Yeah, they're like shock troopers, basically.
Yeah.
Come in and create havoc.
Like, Heinlein calls them army, but from a historical military standpoint, they're Marines.
Yeah, army would be more of the forces that land and set up camp on the battlefield and then move in.
Well, also, Historically speaking, Marines were essentially the combat personnel to protect ships, which is why they're called Marines, and which is why the actual Marines are a sub-branch of the Department of the Navy. But the reason they started being the, you drop them there, they fuck shit up, branch, is because, like, it, in the early modern days of warfare, making a beach landing is a lot easier if you use the guys who are already on the ship, as opposed to setting up troop transports and
yeah. So they have the technology that, in addition to the power armor, they have interstellar faster than light travel, so they can travel all over the cosmos. They have
which is also interesting is because it's called like a Cherenkov drive. So this means that this interstellar drive was probably invented by the Soviets.
Yeah, because keep in mind these books were written in the 50s, so we were at the height of the Cold War. And the idea with the delinquents, that was kind of in the 50s too. These this punk subculture that had popped up in cities and stuff, that was they were the delinquents. That I'm guessing Heinlein was not a big fan of the greasers.
And there's a whole lot of there's a whole, like, nearly a chapter of a dialogue between remembered dialogue between Johnny and the teacher over why you spank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's corporal punishment is a big point.
Because why you need to spank your kids, essentially.
Yeah, because they'll turn into these delinquents, these greasers with their motorcycles and their snapping fingers and switchblade knives.
Yeah.
But they that's part of the history that they talk about, about why the society that they have now is built the way it is because people didn't spank their kids coming back from World War II, and they turned into this generation of delinquents. So we're basically talking about the boomers. The boomers were the delinquents, and they destroyed. And as they matured, they destroyed the country. And then the veterans, who, based on this timeline, would have been the original veterans.
Actually, I don't think the delinquents were the boomers, because remember, World War III breaks out, and
but didn't World War III break out after the delinquents though?
No,
I thought it did.
No, because basically World War III was the last hurrah of Earth communism. Because it was the communist bloc against the a tweaked version of the communist bloc against the Western bloc. So the delinquents would probably have been like Gen X.
Yeah, but what year did World War III break out? Does it say?
I don't think it does.
Yeah, and that I guess that would make a difference of who the delinquents were, but that's what it was based on, was this subculture in 1950s society where people were really starting to rebel. You had your beatniks and your greasers and all these young people who didn't, the generation before had, which was Heinlein's generation, had seen the horrors of war and were really impacted emotionally about that, and they kind of saw these different subcultures. Those are the two ones that I can think of the most: the beatniks and the greasers that were they would have considered disrespectful to this society that we fought so hard to maintain. And Heinlein had that military mindset about that in our victory of World War II. His other books get into that even more. He's kind of a hard on for the Allied troops of the Western Front.
and very specifically a hard on for serving in the Navy.
Right. Yeah. So that's so we have a lot of military.
There are a lot of other things I could say about Heinlein's hard-ons that are probably best saved for a different stream.
Yeah. This is one of the more neutral books when it comes into his kind of cringier ideas, though, because maybe that's just because of what has made it through into modern pop culture, because they trim out the yucky stuff and just keep the yummy stuff of fighting bugs in space. But I cut out all the philosophy that he was originally trying to push, because it doesn't gel well with modern society. You read the book, it's like reading a self-help book from the 50s, or just the idea of social standings and the way people should interact with one another.
Yes, I have seen the horrors of Heinlein's hard-ons. I have read both Stranger in a Strange Land and The Door into Summer.
Right. Yeah, he's got some great
and
great works if you're looking for some a little bit of cringe, but kind of seeing what was acceptable narratives back in the 50s. Yeah, check out some of Heinlein's other works. They haven't really made it too much into the modern pop culture scene, though. Stranger in a Strange Land, there was an adaptation of that didn't have the same name, wasn't there?
I don't know. I know All You Zombies recently had a film adaptation by a different name. And it's terrible that I can't remember what that name was, because I remember it being better than the actual title.
Yeah, well, Starship Troopers, when they made their film adaptation of it, they were they weren't even making Starship Troopers until they realized it was so much like Starship Troopers, they might as well make it Starship Troopers. It was I can't remember, it was like Bug War or something like that, something silly, but then they decided to just make a Starship Troopers adaptation. But the book has
it's called Predestination. It came out in 2014.
2014. And that's based on a Heinlein book.
Yeah. Well, Heinlein short story.
Yeah. So when it comes to being pulpy and stuff, it's good time. And it's kind of, if you can look past, it is like the same thing with like Lovecraft. If you can look past some of their less modernized views on things such as race and gender, and corporal punishment, mainly for Heinlein, because he was really into. I want to speculate that the guy had maybe a little bit of like a spanky fetish, and maybe a little bit of liking to be whipped.
Okay, so spoiler / warning for The Door into Summer, because I always trot this out as one of my Heinlein's cringier takes examples. During the Summer, very pulp, high concept sci-fi. The protagonist gets cryogenically frozen, wakes up in the future, and goes back in time, and then wakes up and then cryogenically freezes himself again. Thing is, the happy ending of this story is he marries his he marries his business partner's daughter, who saw him as an uncle, but it's okay because cryogenic shenanigans close the age gap. That's the happy ending.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as this book goes, though, the other technology that I wanted to talk about, besides the Kirchenshaw drive and the power of mech
the
suits,
Cherenkov drive, I think.
The other technology that I wanted to talk about was nukes, because they are all about nukes in this army or the mobile infantry. That's their kill shot, is these.
Well, so it's kind of interesting. So nukes are prevalent enough that each mobile trooper is, given a loadout of 3, for each mission. But they're also expensive enough that they're sternly told to not waste them and use them on, prime opportune targets. But also cheap enough to where make sure you use all your nukes.
Right. And the books, the movie always presented them as kind of like something you loaded into like a bazooka. You throw it up on your shoulder. But the books, I got the impression that it was like a mortar that they were launching. The way that they described loading it down and firing it.
Yeah, like almost like a mortar launched from the suit is the kind of mental image I got. Yeah, that was conjured up when I read it.
Like it shoots off and then goes.
Yeah.
As opposed to being actually something they're loading up on their shoulder. The imagery is cool in the movie, but yeah, the idea of the nuclear weapons can just be all fired all willy-nilly with boots on the ground in the area is it kind of shows that there was an idea at that time that we were going to hone in on our nuclear military technology to a point where we were doing basically like these are what you'd call like micro nukes, I guess. They don't have nearly as much destructive area, but the same destructive force in the smaller region. So I guess there was an idea that our technology was going to get there eventually when, actually the idea and utilization of nuclear weapons has been kind of narrowed down to being specifically for weapons of mass destruction and not something that you're going to carry into combat with you.
Unless you're a terrorist and you're, using and you've got a suitcase dirty bomb.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's of course. Yeah. That's basically what they are. These are like this universe's version of a dirty bomb. Carried by and our mobile infantry is less like the army, and they're more like a terrorist organization as they sabotage, do attack missions on these alien planets and stuff. Where
now, I mean, see, that kind of gets into like what is terrorism? Because one, these are government sanctioned, so while like with the literal definition of, terrorism being seeking to make a change in policy by means of, threats of violence. Yes, it's terrorism and thus makes the mobile infantry terrorists. However, they are still military operations because one, it's government sanctioned, and two, it's backed by the entire force of the, Federation military.
Yeah, I guess when I said terrorists, I meant that their targets are not always military targets.
Oh yeah, they're attacking, war crimes all around.
They're attacking the hives of these bugs. So the bugs, the society. Let's talk about the bugs for a minute, because again, like I said, there's not nearly the variety you see in the movie. There's not all sorts of different bugs. There's one species that has caste, like you see with ants and termites. So there's queens, and then there's brains, and then there's workers and warriors. And the warriors are go ahead.
And the workers, and you can probably expound on this as being slightly, at least to my untrained mind, slightly unrealistic, is that the warrior caste and the worker caste aren't very dimorphic.
Right. Yeah. There's not a lot of difference between the two of them. That's and in most insects, at least most hymenopterans, ants and bees and wasps, the biggest differences between besides the queen and everybody, because the queen looks way different, and you see that in this universe too. But the workers and the warriors are very distinctly different. The workers are generally a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of dimorphism between them. But when our mobile infantry attacks, they attack their hives. They don't meet them on a combat field. They're striking basically what would be considered civilian targets, and they're going after trying to capture and essentially kidnap what would be the equivalent of military leaders and civil leaders. So the queens and the brains. The brains are the military leaders of the bugs, and that's their whole mission. The big victory, and it's very similar to the in the movie. They do kind of play that part correctly, but they don't just capture a brain bug in the books. They capture a queen too.
Yeah.
And that's their big celebratory victory towards the end of the book.
Yeah. Well, and in the book, it's in the book we actually do see two separate attacks on a bug world, because Johnny was also in Operation Bug House, which was the first attack on Klendathu.
The Bug Home World.
Yep, that went horrifically awry, and then we have the.
Is that where Dizzy and Carlos died? Operation Bug House.
Well, in the book, he's in there with like an entirely new unit that got completely wiped out, and that's why he got moved to the Roughnecks.
Right. Okay. So I know that like Carlos dies. Carlos lives in the movie, but Carlos dies. Which Neil Patrick Harris plays him in the movie. But he dies fairly early on in their service, I believe. It's been a minute since.
Or if I remember right, it's like he just kind of dies off screen because he did get the assignment he wanted. Like he did get the science assignment, so like Johnny never sees him again.
Yeah, just finds out that he died doing something. Yeah, he doesn't die in the book. He dies. Johnny learns about him dying in the book.
Yeah,
but and I don't remember if Carmen lives or not. But she really doesn't come much into play besides the beginning there when he's a teenager, convincing him to enlist. That's what her character arc is.
If I remember right, they meet up on he meets up with Carmen on Sanctuary. They have a chat, and then she kind of pushes him into trying for officer.
Right. So she's like a muse throughout the whole thing, kind of guiding him to keep moving on ahead. Yeah. But yeah, as far as the bugs go, like I said at the beginning, you could really replace them with anything because they don't delve into their society too much, other than that it's what the federal or the Federation, what they oppose. The bugs are just representation of just this is what we're against.
Well, like there is one like. So there's one way that you can say that the bugs kind of, because it's specifically mentioned in the book that they were essentially evolved to be the perfect communist society. So going with a hive structure for that, it makes sense on a metaphorical. Like, if you're putting yourself in the mind of a 1950s sci-fi writer, the metaphor works.
Yeah, well, they're in social insects. Yeah, they are. I mean, that would gel a lot better with communism more so than our tribal ape structure that we have right now. And the bugs, keep in mind that they're not beasties like they are in the movies either. They're an intelligent. They have space travel. They're not just shooting asteroids into space with spores on it like they do in the movies. They actually have space travel and ships and technology and stuff. So they're not just monster or like the arachnids in the movies are. I did like that they were a little bit different, but no, they have technology and stuff. So do the skinnies. The skinnies have technology. The bugs also represent the same thing that Heinlein was, the message that he was pushing about an empire. If they were also growing and needed to keep growing in order to keep their empire going and not start collapsing. The bugs were doing the same things as the Federation were. They were both working towards the same goal of just continuous expansion and conquering the galaxy. And they ran into each other. The skinnies were not doing that. They're just basically like to represent like private civilian population, civilian countries that can be swayed one way or the other, just to make there's some native population that's caught up in this as well, in this conflict between two vying powers, which was the Cold War.
It is kind of implied that the skinnies had done human experimentation.
The skinnies are supposed to be the gray aliens.
That's basically why I said that, is because like in this book universe, the grays exist and they're the skinnies.
And they did do experiments on humans in the 20th century, and all of our pop culture and stuff about gray aliens is based on visits from the skinnies. But now we've bypassed the skinnies in our military technology, and they're kind of at our mercy throughout. Well, they can defend themselves. They do have their own weaponry and stuff, but both the bug and the human technology in our military forces just greatly overpower them. So they're like native militias basically on these worlds that we fight the bugs on, and we fight starship battles with the bugs because they do have starships. We fight planetary battles with them on bug planets, on planets with human colonies, on planets with skinny colonies. It's a whole war across the galaxy, and it's a space battle. It's not just again, we keep harkening back to the movie, but it's not humans with guns versus insects using their legs as well, or their limbs as weapons. They have weapons too.
Yeah, it's like, early in the war, it's like the only way infantrymen knew a soldier was a soldier and not a worker is if they had a weapon.
Right, yeah, because they look so much alike, and that's part of the problem with Heinlein's depiction of them. There should have been some dimorphic characteristics between worker class and warrior class, but because these aliens, unlike in the movie again, they used weapons. They didn't have to have dimorphic biological weapons because they manufactured their own. So maybe they lost their dimorphic characteristics, and that's why. Maybe humans just weren't used to looking at their characteristics enough to distinguish them. Or maybe the differences are through chemoreceptors that we can't even smell as humans.
Well, and it is mentioned that they're slightly dimorphic because they're like, if you take time to look at one, there are structural differences in like the abdomen. It's like you can kind of tell, but you're in the heat of battle.
Right. And again, they were targeting civilian targets, so the chances of you hitting a worker when you start firing into the crowd is a lot more prevalent than hitting a soldier, because there's a lot more workers than soldiers.
And basically, if I remember right, like there's an actual line on the book is like, the only way trooper in the heat of the moment can realize if he's in with workers is if they're not attacking.
Because they don't even have the biological capabilities to attack, and the soldiers don't have the biological ability to stop attacking. They will not surrender, and they will not give up. That's one of their primary characteristics. And it is this is harkening back to the Russians in World War II, how Stalin would just send forces after forces, wave after wave of military forces against the Germans, and just the bodies would just pile up, and they just keep coming, because there was, the Russian army was huge at the time.
Yeah.
Most of them died because of this war tactic. But that is what the imagery that you want to have in your head of the bugs in combat. They biologically cannot stop fighting. The workers can't fight at all. They don't have the ability to fight.
And of course, the difference between these warrior bugs and the Russians is the Russians had, commissars behind them.
Right. Yeah. The warrior bugs are kind of on their own. The bodies just keep piling up. And you do see that depicted in some of not in the movies. Well, maybe in the movie a little bit, but in some of the art I looked at when I was looking at art of the Bug Wars from the novel, there's some great pictures of people standing on top of mountains with dead bugs, with their big guns and stuff. So that's the way that the bugs fought, and they couldn't do anything different. The only bugs that could make decisions on their own or decide what they are or not going to do are the brain bugs and the queens. And the brain bugs are tactical, and they direct the warrior bugs. The warrior bugs have no choice but to follow those directions. They physiologically cannot not follow the instructions. And then the brain bugs answer to the queens, who is essentially just a figurehead and liaison, keeps track of the populations are, and if they need, if they can afford to send out soldiers. The soldiers aren't making any decisions at all for themselves.
Like, and this gets into like one of my favorite like things to kind of play with when you're talking about hive races. It's like, are the soldiers even
individuals?
Yeah. Or are they merely extensions of the brain?
Right. I'd say that we really toe that line here with the bugs. I mean, they're the perfect example, because you cannot, you couldn't reason with the warrior bug to make it calm down and not want to fight. All it does is fight. It's either fighting or waiting to fight. But with ants and things like that, there's a species of ant that they give birth to a caste system that's entire purpose and physiological makeup is to be a water storage unit for drought seasons. So this caste of ants' whole job is to hang from the ceiling and have other ants come and puke lick water into its mouth, and its abdomen swells up like a big balloon, and so there's all these little balloons that are the ants' abdomens hanging from the ceiling. That's its entire life, and that's all it knows how to do. It's all it can do. So the bugs basically have that with their different cast. I mean, and there may have been more casts that we could have explored if we actually got into more of the ecology of the bugs and the makeup of Clendathu and the other planets that they had kind of conquered. But we don't really get a chance to, because we're seeing this through a soldier's perspective, which is kill.
And also because Heinlein's more interested in preaching at us about how fascism is awesome.
Right. That's his message. So we don't get a lot of to learn a lot about the ecology of the skinnies or of the bugs themselves,
or rather how humans are evolutionarily designed to be fascistic, so we need to just lean into it.
Right. That's the central message. It's in our nature to be tribalistic, fascist, combative creatures that were just born that way, and the ones that are the more of those characteristics you express, the higher up you should be in the hierarchy of the human race. Because that's in the spoilers for anybody who hasn't read this 70-year-old book, but in the end, Johnny's dad, who was very anti-federal service, he becomes part of the mobile infantry. So even
there's a scene where Johnny's going off to officer school, and he meets his dad, and his dad basically got his old spot on the ship, and filled the spot in his platoon.
Yeah.
And then the book ends with him leading the platoon and his dad being the head sergeant under him.
Right. Yeah. That's your happy ending.
Yeah.
You and your dad going out and performing war crimes together. Yay.
Yeah. And and gearing up for the final, I'm gonna say the words for the final solution to the bug problem.
Right, the final solution.
Yeah,
cringe, but that's our happy ending, though. That's where we come to. That's our conclusion. Is that this fascist. I kind of want to say it's like a kind of a reflection of colonialism, so imperialist.
Yeah.
Where we're building this. Yeah, imperialist is that's the only way you could describe what the Federation is. It's an imperialist entity that's vying with another imperialist entity. Just the other one, the bugs had the gumption to call themselves a queen, whereas with the Federation, it's all it's the veterans. But so imperialism good, conquer your neighbors. It's the message of the book. And if you're not trying to conquer your neighbors, you'll never run out of neighbors to try to conquer. Always be growing, always be conquering. All conflict is settled through physical confrontation, and people who don't want to settle conflict through physical confrontation are a weak link and should not be given voting power and should not have any say in how the empire moves forward.
Also a little tidbit of eugenics is actually good and only betters humanity as a species.
Right.
Because there's this bit where Johnny's on Sanctuary, and we learn that Sanctuary doesn't get as much radiation from its star as Earth does. So there's less
mutation.
Yeah, there's less beneficial mutation, and that he feels kind of sad that the residents of Sanctuary will eventually be a backward vestige of humanity when humanity evolves into better things.
Right, because Heinlein is very, very much in like a Lamarckian ideology on evolution. It's upward momentum. You're only
Aristotle's ladder.
Yeah, it's very upward momentum. It's only going to get better.
But even then, Johnny's like, but Sanctuary is a nice place. I don't care about my kids.
Yeah. There's that. So we do learn a little bit of the weird, some of the weird science, and that's what you go into this book, reading this book, you're looking for science fiction, you're looking for weird science. So it is there. You'll learn some about their technology, just a little bit, some hints. You'll learn about some of the alien races and some of the things like little tidbits like that, like radiation on Sanctuary. Not causing the beneficial mutations needed to progress or to progress to the next level of human evolution. Things, just these weird science fiction tidbits. The faster than light travel, they kind of explain that a little bit. It's quirky physics, but yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So you do get your science fiction out of this. If that's what you're going into expecting, you are going to get some science fiction. You want to know where Space Marine power armor comes from. Check it out. They're jumping all over the place with 19 feet in the air and whatnot. Have super strength with the power armor. So you want to know where that comes from. You want to find the origins.
And even occasionally do the video game double jump.
Yep, they can double jump
because they've got jump jets.
Yeah, all that stuff. You want to find out where all these sci-fi tropes come from. Not all of them, but I mean, because there were some of these. He did stand on the shoulders of giants who had written sci-fi before him. A lot of pulp authors from the 1930s to the 40s, and some of these old pulp magazines had some great stuff. Asimov, stuff like that. People writing science fiction. So he did build on what they have. But as far as the Space Marines and the idea of going out and fighting bugs in space as part of a military unit, find its origins here for the most part, as Ring was saying. So yeah, that's what you're in it for. It's there. You're going to have to wade through a lot of bad philosophy. What I consider bad philosophy. I'm not a big fan of corporal punishment and capital punishment. Those are all things that are promoted by this book. I'm not a big fan of fascism. I'm going to say that there's a lot of fascism going on here. It's definitive because the people in power also control the means of production. So yeah, it's fascism.
Yeah. Though if you want to read something like Starship Troopers, but you're a bit uncomfortable with the Heinleinian undertones of it, I would suggest the Old Man's War series by John Scalzi.
I'm not familiar with that. Are there bugs?
There is an arthropodal race called the Conchia, if I remember right, but they're more like lobsters.
So Zoidberg's planet.
Yeah. But it's basically the your military sci-fi guy joins the space military, but then as you get into the series you find out that the government is pretty shady and it's not got humanity's best interests at heart.
Yeah, so a more realistic depiction of the government.
Yeah.
Because Heinlein is very pro-government. I mean, at least as far as like the military goes, he's very, very pro-government. Which is another weird flex to take when taking a more conservative position, but whatever. We'll take it.
Yeah, as a bit of a spoiler, it turns out that the human government is essentially using Earth to pump out colonists from the third world nations, and then soldiers from the retirees in the first world nations to essentially fund its ever-growing sphere of imperial influence.
Damn. That sounds pretty savage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Well, yeah, final thoughts. Heinlein's always a good read if you're in the mood for it. But yeah, if you want something pulpy and some pulpy military sci-fi, I definitely give Starship Troopers a recommend. If you want to get that same buzz without dealing with Heinlein stuff, check out Old Man's War by John Scalzi.
So when it comes to Heinlein in general, Starship Troopers specifically, people say Starship Troopers is the Lord of the Rings of military science fiction, and it is. But you can also say that Heinlein is the Ayn Rand of science fiction as well. So that's something else you have to take into consideration when you pick up one of the novels. So just if you're into the sci-fi part of it, and you can wade through the philosophy, go for it. I like the movie better than the book in this instance, which is kind of a rare thing. Usually I like the book better, but I do like the satire, and that may be nostalgia too, because I watched the movie 100 times before I ever picked up the book. I grew up with the movie. So yeah. All right. We will be scheduling part 2 of this. It's probably going to be in March, and hopefully I won't be late for it. That should be on my channel.
Well, I mean, definitionally, you won't be late for it because it's your channel.
Yeah, I'll get alerts though. When I got something on my channel, I get like a nice alerts. I guess I should have. Again, I forgot to set my alarm for it. I'm so sorry. I overslept, but I'm glad we were able to get together and talk and hang out. And we will do part 2. We're going to talk about some of them. We're going to talk about the movie, of course, that we kept touching on here because you can't not touch on it when you're talking about the book. And we're going to talk about the video games and comic books and stuff. But we're also going to talk about some spin-off stuff that was sort of based around the ideas that were laid down in this novel, like the Alien franchise. There's a lot of overlap there between the way that the universe is structured. So we're going to explore into that. Lot of cool ideas that we're gonna delve into. So this was the book review, and then we're gonna do the pop culture review coming up. I'm thinking March. Probably probably about a month from now. Let's shoot for that. Actually, you know what? Let's look at the dates right now. I got my calendar here. Why not? So I like Sunday. Sunday is good, and we can't do it in the morning like we did here. So I'm thinking maybe exactly 30 days from now is March 20th. So we can do it on March 20th. I'm going to put that in the calendar, and we can schedule it. I think 11 o'clock a.m. will probably be better for me.
And that way I'll be able to do the actual media musings and then jump on for yours.
Yeah. And Jeff, if you're interested, Godless Scummer, if you're still out there, if you're interested in joining us for that part of it, I'm cool with Jeff coming in too. So if he wants to get some insight on that, we'd be happy to have a third wheel to help bounce ideas off of. All right.
And next week we are covering Encanto, because I can't stop thinking about it, and maybe if I talk about it, I'll stop thinking about it.
Well, you can talk about Encanto, but just don't talk about Bruno.
Oh, we will be talking about Bruno. It's okay to talk about Bruno now.
Okay. That's the best song from that movie so far.
Yes. And following up, March will be Mob Movie Month.
Ooh, so we're talking you're gonna do the whole Godfather series?
I think we're just gonna do Godfather part 1 and 2,
and then Goodfellas.
I know we're doing the Godfather. I forget a couple of the others, but we're definitely doing. Well, I think we split up like Godfather. Like 1 week we're talking part 1, 1 week we're talking part 2. And then we're also talking Little Caesar. I forget what the fourth is.
Is it Scarface?
It might be Goodfellas. I think it might be Goodfellas.
How many days do we have, and how many episodes you're gonna have in March? Let's see. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 4.
Yeah.
That should cover it then. Yeah. So but Untouchables is one of the best movies I think.
Oh yeah, no, Untouchables is the next month, because we're going from mom movies to cop movies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like Untouchables. Good stuff there. All right. So next week, Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m., live from the Hive, as always. And we did our fundraiser last night. We didn't quite hit our $10,000 goal, but we got awful close. I haven't checked it yet this morning because I just woke up and did this. We did a fundraiser for recovering from religion. So, if you missed that, it was on YFNA, your friendly neighborhood atheist. I got to be on with Gut Sick Gibbon. It was a good time, but that fundraiser's still open. If anybody wants to donate to it, you pop over there and drop a couple of bucks in. It goes to a good cause, helping people who are struggling to escape religious abuse or struggling with religious trauma. So good cause there. And I'm going to be having that link in my description for the next couple of weeks. So anytime you pop into the BrainBug channel, you can click on that and participate as well. Other than that, I don't have anything specifically planned, except for now I have something planned for March 20th at 11 a.m. All right.
And sometime in the near future, maybe tomorrow, maybe next Monday, who knows how I feel. I'm gonna have to look up that video about the Kandahar giant and just and do a response to it, because
that was so much fun.
Yeah. Well,
you have military expertise too, military intelligence kind of stuff going on.
That hit me in my angry Afghan vet. But
I should have, if I had to. So I did a poll for it, like a poll to vote on it. So I didn't have time to plan anything besides other than doing my own research on it. But if I had time, had a couple weeks in advance, I maybe would have done like an backstage interview with you and did some sound bites or something where you explain why this guy's saying is BS.
The only main thing you yourself got wrong is Kandahar is the name of a province.
It's the region around the city.
Like there's and also it's now I didn't do anything in regards to Kandahar because it was under a different jurisdiction. I think while I was deployed, the Brits had it. The Brits were in that area.
Yeah.
But Kandahar's basically on the Iranian-Afghan border.
Right, it's the second biggest city in Afghanistan. I looked into it a bit. There is countryside around there, but it'd be the same as being in the countryside around Detroit. You're still going to see a lot more people in that area than you are in someplace more rural. And there are rural regions in Afghanistan where hardly anybody lives, but Kandahar is not one of them. It's pretty.
And most of the mountains are more in the northeast, and Kandahar's in the southwest.
Right. Yeah. But it does have mountains, but it does not anything as impressive as what you see as you move further east. That's in Afghanistan, Iraq, everywhere in that area.
Yeah,
mountains. I am jealous that you got to see that beautiful landscape, though.
Oh yeah, like
it is gorgeous. I've seen pictures of it. It's beautiful.
I was stationed in Bagram, which is right up in there in the Hindu, in the Hindu Kush.
Yes, I mean some of the earliest what they call aquaculture or hydroculture or whatever, where they build canals and stuff. Some of the earliest records of those are in the Kandahar area. That's pretty cool. Anyway,
but with that, with all that shilling done, we'll move to taglines.
All right. Yeah, mine's pretty simple. Be kind and take care. We'll see you next time.
And remember, the purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think on. Too often, Heinlein forgets that. But for real, it's too often we forget that.
All right.